My name is Brendan Hall. I'm a documentary filmmaker. I'm a director, cinematographer, and editor. And a lot of my work is about telling stories in nature, the natural world, and human stories. So, stories of exploration, connecting to nature, and how we can best preserve it. Yeah, so Out There, a national park story, is like my white whale of a film project. It took me 7 years to make the film, and it all came for me out of a love of national parks. Traveling through national parks in the United States was what really inspired me to make documentary films. I've been making films since I was 12. I got a camcorder in my backyard and just fell in love with it. And then going to film school, I went to NYU here in New York City. I thought I was going to make Hollywood type films, but I took a road trip in the middle of college and went through a bunch of national parks, and particularly standing under the stars at the Grand Canyon made me want to tell kind of real stories in nature and capture that magic and share it with people. And so Out There is a film that it follows me and a buddy, Anthony, a childhood friend I grew up with. After college, we set out on a kind of 4 month road trip throughout a single summer to hit about 20 national parks and road trip across 10,000 miles. And it's all about humans that we meet along the way. So there's a trail builder, a Blackfeet native storyteller and musician, a female solo backpacker, and a French Vietnamese photographer, alongside all these other little voices along the way. And so, yeah, it's been an amazing project. And now we're touring it all across the country, screening at parks and hoping that others can kind of get out there. It doesn't have to just be national parks, but it's kind of a call to get out of your comfort zone. And for me, it was a big road trip. But for you, it's saying, what is that thing you've always wanted to do? And what's the dream that you want to chase? Yeah, so there's an endless number of stories in every national park, state park, your local park, even your backyard. And so it was hard because we could have told an endless number of stories of really cool people, but we actually kind of in the way of a true road trip where you're going and you're meeting these people along the way and it's very serendipitous. We went in without much of a plan. We went to local libraries near the parks and we'd say, who's a local legend around here? Who do you know that we should talk to? As people learned about our project, we'd ask them other people we should talk to, did research online. And so, park by park, we sort of just found people that were kind enough to answer our phone calls and emails and film with us. And so it turns into this really cool little tapestry. And as a filmmaker myself, it's just a great memory because every single person has this kind of serendipitous story of the way they met us, from the library to bumping into them on a viewpoint to hearing about them online and sending them a cold email. So, yeah, it was an awesome journey. Yeah, I mean, the first thing we learned along the trip was we didn't have much time in the parks. And so we'd only have 2 or 3 days to cover something like Yellowstone, which is an enormous park and you could spend weeks in it alone. So the kind of the first big lesson we learned was don't try to see everything in that park because you're just going to see it too fast, but try to pick the few things that really excite you and kind of speak to your heart. We had a lot of rain, a lot of bad weather, but learned that that's also part of a story. It creates for drama, it creates for mishaps, and you kind of have to power through. And then making the film, I mean, I always thought the film would happen very quickly and that I'd finish it that first year. And I never thought that it would take 6 or 7 years to edit, to do some additional filming, and kind of make it that the film I'd always wanted to dream. I'd always dreamed it would be to like kind of sit side by side with other films made in the national parks and be screenable and be shared by people. And now we've had it seen by two different former directors of the National Park Service, hundreds of nonprofit organizations. And I think we've screened to probably over 10,000 people, at least in person in theaters across the country. And that's only getting bigger. And so it was definitely, yeah, a big learning lesson, but a surprise that it would take just so long to finish it. I think like nature, the natural world, the air and the water that we consume and that kind of fuels us, is part of us as human beings, down to our cells, down to the energy that we get, and then down to just that connection to something that's a lot bigger than us. And we've had cell phones, for a couple decades, but the natural world and nature has been a direct part of who we are as humans for thousands of years, tens or hundreds of thousands of years, all the way to the very beginning of just about everything. And so, what I love about being in nature personally is that the chatter kind of quiets. I'm not worried about texts. I'm not worried about emails. And I can just connect to something that's peaceful and it's not judging me, where I can kind of go and heal and kind of get what I need to, even if it's just some fresh air, a nice walk, and some exercise. And so, definitely engage with nature, get out. And even if it's a state park or just a local river, somewhere nearby near your backyard. My high school in Connecticut had a couple really cool little parks we went to and just hung out. So nature is a lot closer to your doorstep than you'd think. And if you are lucky enough to get to a national park, it's just an amazing adventure. So definitely take the opportunity. Yeah, I mean, for me, I just got really lucky that I found something that I loved doing. As soon as I got a camcorder, for some reason, it always was so exciting to capture things around me, make little music videos, make films. And I was able to start editing on a video software, which now any of us can on our phones, our computers, take footage and immediately start creating videos, pairing music and pairing sound. And for me, it was just magic. It was this whole world where you could tell a story and then go and share it to people, make them laugh, make them cry, inform them on some important idea. And filmmaking is really special because it combines all the fine arts of writing and sound and music and imagery, photography, kind of even painting takes a lot of inspiration with the light and everything. And so each of us has our own superpowers, and each of us has their own kind of kinds of work and kinds of hobbies and things that we just love or that we're best at. And so my advice would be that if something inspires you and it just really feels right in your heart to go and pursue it, to keep doing it and see where it takes you. And doing something for a living is a lot different than doing it for fun. And so it's always okay if you choose to just do something for a hobby, but it's definitely worth pursuing the things that inspire you.